The last resort. The quantum plague first appeared on Helios Prime, manifesting as shimmering waves of energy that turned living tissue to crystal. The Heliosians, a species of philosophers and artists who had achieved interstellar flight millennia before humans mastered fire, watched helplessly as their youngest began to crystallize from the inside out. Their cities of floating crystal spires, once a testament to their mastery of matter and energy, now seemed like monuments to their impending extinction. Ambassador Elena Santos stood before the Galactic Council's emergency session, her dark eyes reflecting the holographic displays of spreading infection rates. The Heliosian representative, a being of pure energy contained within an ornate crystalline shell, pulsed with a deep indigo of despair as it presented the latest figures. Already, 30% of their population showed signs of infection, and their best models predicted total species extinction within 2 standard months. The quantum resonance patterns are unlike anything we've encountered, the Terry chief scientist announced, their multifaceted eyes dimming. Our most advanced quantum computing arrays cannot predict its behavior. We regret that we must maintain our quarantine protocols. One by one, the most advanced civilizations in known space declared their inability, or unwillingness, to help. The Auroran Collective cited the risk of pan-dimensional contamination. The Mecanian Empire calculated a 98.7% probability of plague mutation if they intervened. Each refusal was logical, measured, and damning. Elena felt the familiar burn of frustration rising in her chest. Humanity, barely 2 centuries into its membership in the galactic community, was often dismissed as primitive, emotional, and reckless. But watching these ancient civilizations retreat behind their safety protocols, while billions faced extinction, ignited something deeper than anger. Earth volunteers to lead the humanitarian response, she declared, her voice cutting through the chamber's resigned murmurs. The statement drew shocked ripples of electromagnetic discharge from the energy-based species present. Ambassador Santos, the council elder's voice resonated with careful patience. Your species lacks the technological sophistication to comprehend, let alone combat, a quantum-level pathogen. This is not a matter of conventional disease control. Elena smiled, a gesture that still unnerved many alien species. Perhaps that's exactly why we're suited for this crisis. We're too primitive to fully understand why it's impossible, so we'll have to rely on what humanity does best, improvising. Within 24 hours, Earth's quantum plague response team assembled on Helios Prime. Dr. Sarah Chen, Earth's leading quantum biologist, stood in the crystalline observation chamber, studying the latest victim through heavily shielded screens. The young Heliosian's energy form flickered weakly within its rapidly crystallizing shell. "It's beautiful, in a terrible way," Sarah murmured, making notes as her team's sensors recorded every quantum fluctuation. The plague isn't just crystallizing them, it's rewriting their quantum signature. Like it's trying to transform them into something else. Captain James Rodriguez, commanding the medical transport ship HFY Nightingale, watched the readings with a soldier's practiced eye for patterns. "Reminds me of old Earth viruses. They don't just kill, they repurpose. We're not seeing destruction so much as transformation." The observation startled Sarah. Coming from a military man with no quantum physics background, it shouldn't have meant much. But human intuition had often seen patterns that their advanced AI missed. Transform them into what, though? And why? The answer came from an unexpected source. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, whose expertise was actually in Earth's marine biology, noticed something while reviewing historical data from Helios Prime's central archives. "Look at these energy signatures from their ancient religious texts," she said, pulling up glowing glyphs that pulsed with familiar patterns. "They're almost identical to the plague's quantum resonance." Sarah's eyes widened as the implications hit her. It's not a plague at all. It's some kind of ancient program, written into the quantum fabric of this star system. But something triggered it after all these millennia. Working through Earth's night cycle, The team pieced together a theory that would have seemed laughably primitive to the advanced species who had retreated from the crisis. The quantum plague wasn't a disease but a failsafe, encoded by the original settlers of Helios Prime. It was designed to trigger a species-wide transformation in response to some cosmic threat, a threat that their modern descendants had long forgotten. "We can't stop it," Sarah finally announced to the Heliosian High Council, "because it's not meant to be stopped. But we might be able to guide it, help your people through the transformation instead of fighting it." The Heliosian eldest's voice crackled with skepticism. "Guide us through extinction, not extinction," Sarah corrected, her voice firm with conviction. "Evolution. Your ancestors left you a gift, a way to survive something they saw coming. We don't understand the quantum mechanics fully. We probably never will. But we understand survival, adaptation, and evolution better than any species in the galaxy. Let us help you embrace this change instead of fighting it." It was a radical proposal, one that the more advanced species would have dismissed as dangerous speculation. But the Heliosians, facing extinction, found hope in humanity's stubborn refusal to accept the impossible. As the first human medical ships began arriving with makeshift quantum stabilization chambers, hybrid devices that combined ancient Heliosian technology with human medical theories, Alina stood again before the Galactic Council. This time, she didn't need to argue or defend humanity's involvement. The preliminary results spoke for themselves. The transformation continued, but under human guidance, the survival rate had jumped from 0 to 60% and was climbing. "We may be primitive by your standards," she told the assembled representatives, "but humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology. It's our refusal to accept limitations, our ability to find hope in hopeless situations, and our willingness to stand with others when everyone else steps back. We don't need to understand everything to help. Sometimes, we just need to be human." The chamber fell silent as her words resonated through translation fields and neural networks. On the main display, a young Heliosian emerged from a transformation chamber, its energy form now pulsing with new patterns that seemed to echo with ancient power. The impossible had become possible, not through advanced technology or complex calculations, but through humanity's unique combination of intuition, determination, and the simple courage to try when others would not. The quantum plague crisis marked a turning point in galactic relations. Humanity's reputation for being primitive and emotional began to shift. Perhaps some species began to wonder there was something to be said for facing the impossible with nothing but hope, determination, and the stubborn refusal to give up. The human factor. Dr. Sarah Chen hadn't slept in 36 hours, but the quantum readings on her holographic display demanded her complete attention. In the makeshift research center established within one of Helios Prime's crystalline spires, she and her team worked tirelessly to understand the transformation process that was reshaping an entire species. "The energy patterns are becoming more stable," Dr. Tanaka reported, her fingers dancing across sensor controls. "But we're seeing variations I can't explain. Each transformed individual shows slightly different quantum signatures." Captain Rodriguez, who had refused to return to his ship while his medical teams were planetside, leaned forward to study the intricate patterns. "Like fingerprints," he mused, "or maybe like DNA. Even during a major evolutionary change, individual variation remains." The observation sparked something in Sarah's mind. While the advanced species of the galaxy approached quantum mechanics as pure physics, humans couldn't help but see parallels to biological systems they understood. It was this unique perspective, combining primitive biological understanding with quantum physics, that led to their first major breakthrough. "What if we're thinking about this all wrong?" Sarah began pacing, her exhaustion forgotten. "Everyone's been treating this as a quantum physics problem, but what if it's actually closer to metamorphosis, like a caterpillar becoming a butterfly?" The research team scrambled to adjust their approach. They began applying principles of biological transformation to quantum states, a methodology that would have seemed absurd to more advanced civilizations. But as they modified their stabilization chambers to work with the transformation, rather than trying to control it, survival rates climbed even higher. The Heliocean eldest visited the research center as they implemented their new protocols. Its crystalline shell, now showing the first signs of transformation, pulsed with curiosity. "Your methods are unorthodox," it observed, watching human medical teams adjust equipment with a combination of advanced alien technology and hastily fabricated Earth components. "Unorthodox is what humans do best," Sarah replied, checking readings on a patient whose quantum signature had successfully stabilized. "We're too young as a species to be bound by conventional wisdom. Sometimes, not knowing something is impossible is our greatest advantage." But their progress was about to face its greatest challenge. As more Helioceans underwent transformation, the team began noticing disturbing patterns in the quantum fabric of space around Helios Prime. The ancient program wasn't just changing individuals, it was affecting the fundamental structure of local spacetime. "The star system itself is being transformed," Dr. Tanaka announced during an emergency briefing. "The quantum resonance is spreading through subspace, creating some kind of network." The Galactic Council, monitoring the situation remotely, immediately called for a complete evacuation of the system. Their models predicted a cascading quantum collapse that could threaten neighboring stars. But Sarah and her team saw something different in the data. "It's not a collapse," Sarah argued during a tense council session. "The quantum network is stabilizing, not destroying. Those ancient patterns we found in Heliocean religious texts, they're not just transformation instructions, they're star maps, coordinates for something massive." The revelation stunned the council into silence. The transformation wasn't just about changing the Helioceans, it was preparing them, and their entire star system, for something approaching through higher dimensional space, something their ancestors had seen coming millennia ago. Working against time, human scientists and engineers began adapting their stabilization technology to work on a stellar scale. They couldn't stop the transformation of space-time any more than they could stop the transformation of individual Helioceans, but they could help guide it, keep it stable, prevent it from cascading out of control. "This is insanity," the Digitary chief scientist declared. "You cannot apply biological principles to quantum space-time transformation. The mathematical complexities alone." "With all due respect," Sarah interrupted, "we're not trying to solve the math. We're trying to save lives and preserve a civilization. Sometimes you have to put aside theoretical perfection and just do what works." The human approach proved its worth as the quantum network continued to expand. Where advanced predictive models showed only chaos and collapse, human intuition guided by basic principles of growth and adaptation helped maintain stability. They didn't understand everything that was happening, couldn't understand it, given their technological level, but they understood enough to help. As the transformation of local spacetime continued, the Helioceans who had completed their individual transformations began to show new abilities. They could perceive and interact with the quantum network, reading the ancient messages encoded within it. Through their transformed consciousness, a warning emerged, a threat approaching from beyond the galaxy's edge, something that could only be survived through this massive transformation. Elena Santos, still coordinating the humanitarian mission from the Galactic Council, received the reports with growing amazement. "We didn't just help them survive a crisis," she told the Council. "We helped them fulfill their species' destiny. And we did it not because we were the most advanced or the most knowledgeable, but because we were willing to try when others weren't." The human research team continued their work, adapting and improvising as new challenges emerged. They had no way of knowing if their efforts would ultimately succeed, no guarantee that the approaching threat could be survived even with these extraordinary preparations. But they kept working, kept trying, kept refusing to give up. In the end, that stubborn determination proved to be exactly what the situation required. As the quantum network stabilized and expanded under their guidance, the Helioceans began to understand their new form and purpose. They were becoming something their ancestors had envisioned, a species capable of defending not just themselves, but the entire sector against a threat that conventional technology couldn't face. And it was humanity's unique approach, their willingness to combine intuition with science, to see patterns where others saw only chaos, to keep trying when logic said to retreat, that made it possible. In helping the Heliotions transform, humanity had transformed galactic society's understanding of what primitive species could achieve. Breaking protocol. The emergency alert blared through the crystalline corridors of the research center as another section of space-time began to destabilize. Captain Rodriguez watched the quantum readings spike dangerously on the main display, while Dr. Chen and her team rushed to adjust their stabilization fields. "The transformation is accelerating," Sarah announced, her voice tight with tension. "The quantum network is expanding faster than we can adapt our containment protocols." The Galactic Council's response was swift and predictable. "All non-essential personnel must evacuate immediately," the Council Elder's hologram declared. "The risk of catastrophic quantum cascade is now beyond acceptable parameters." Elena Santos, who had relocated to Helios Prime to coordinate efforts directly, stood her ground. "Define acceptable parameters," she challenged. "Because from where I stand, abandoning billions to their fate isn't acceptable at all." The council chambers erupted in electromagnetic discharge as various species expressed their disapproval. The Mechanian representative's metallic form vibrated with calculated disapproval. "The protocols exist for a reason, Ambassador. The potential collapse could spread through subspace, affecting multiple star systems." But humanity had never been good at accepting limitations, especially when lives were at stake. Dr. Tanaka had already discovered that the transformed Heliosians could perceive and interact with the quantum network in ways their instruments couldn't match. If they could combine that ability with human intuition and determination, there might be a way to stabilize the transformation on a stellar scale. "We need to stop fighting the transformation," Sarah explained to the assembled team. "The ancient program isn't just changing matter and energy. It's upgrading the fundamental operating system of spacetime itself. And the Heliosians aren't victims of this process. They're meant to be its operators." The proposal she presented was audacious. Use the transformed Heliosians as living stabilization nodes, creating a web of conscious control over the expanding quantum network. It was dangerous, experimental, and completely outside established scientific protocols. It was also their only chance. "You cannot be serious." The Izixteri chief scientist hologram flickered with agitation. "Using sentient beings as quantum infrastructure components. The ethical implications alone." "We volunteer," the Heliosian eldest interrupted, its transformed crystalline form resonating with newfound purpose. "We finally understand what our ancestors prepared us for. This is not just about survival. It's about becoming what we were always meant to be." The next 48 hours became a race against time as human medical teams worked with transformed Heliosians to establish the living control network. They broke virtually every safety protocol in the Galactic Council's extensive rulebooks, but they did it with careful precision and unwavering determination. Captain Rodriguez coordinated the effort from the ground, directing his medical ships to position themselves at crucial nodes throughout the system. "We're not just treating patients anymore," he told his crews. "We're helping birth a new form of existence. Every stabilization chamber is a cradle for something unprecedented." The moment of truth came as the quantum network reached a critical expansion point. According to the Council's predictive models, this should have been the moment of catastrophic collapse. Instead, the transformed Heliosians, guided by human assistance, established conscious control over the quantum fluctuations. Through their transformed perception, they began to decode more of the ancient warning. The threat their ancestors had foreseen was approaching through higher dimensions, something that could only be perceived and countered by beings who had undergone this specific transformation. The entire process, from the initial quantum plague to the transformation of spacetime itself, was a carefully orchestrated metamorphosis designed to create defenders capable of facing this threat. Your ancestors were brilliant, Sarah told the eldest as they monitored the stabilization process. They knew they couldn't pass down the knowledge directly without risking premature transformation. So they encoded it into your very existence, waiting for the moment it would be needed. But there was something else, something the Heliosians were beginning to understand through their connection to the quantum network. Their ancestors hadn't just created a defense system, they had created a connection point, a way to unite multiple species in the face of the approaching threat. And humanity's role in guiding their transformation had unexpectedly created a bridge between old and new forms of existence. Elena found herself explaining this to an increasingly interested Galactic Council. The Heliosians can perceive and manipulate quantum states we barely understand, she said, but they need our human perspective, our creativity, our adaptability, our willingness to embrace the unknown, to fully utilize these new abilities. The implications were staggering. Humanity, despite its primitive technology and limited understanding of quantum mechanics, had proven essential to implementing an advanced species' ancient survival plan. Their very limitations had become advantages, allowing them to think and act in ways that more advanced species couldn't conceive. As the quantum network stabilized under Heliosian control, the transformation of their star system continued, but now with purpose and direction. The crystalline cities began to pulse with new energy as they became nodes in a vast, living defense network. And at each crucial point, human teams worked alongside their transformed allies, providing the intuitive understanding and adaptability that pure logic could never achieve. We didn't just break protocol, Elena later reflected to Sarah. We proved why protocols sometimes need to be broken. The galaxy needs both stability and chaos, both ancient wisdom and new perspectives. Sometimes the most advanced solution isn't the most complex one. It's the one that comes from the heart. The transformed Heliosians agreed. Through their new quantum awareness, they had gained access to knowledge beyond current galactic science. But it was humanity's simple courage and determination that had made that knowledge accessible. In breaking the rules to save lives, humans had helped unlock a power that would prove essential to the galaxy's survival. Chain reaction. The holographic display in the Galactic Council chamber showed hundreds of points of light, each representing a star system requesting human assistance with their own transformation programs. In the weeks following the successful stabilization of Helios Prime, ancient quantum triggers had begun activating throughout the galaxy, as if responding to some unseen signal. Elena Santos stood before the council, her expression both tired and determined. We've confirmed that at least 30 different species have discovered similar transformation protocols in their ancestral records, she reported. This wasn't just a Heliosian preparation. It was a galactic one. The council chamber hummed with electromagnetic disturbance as various species processed this information. The Mechanian representatives' auxiliary processors whirred audibly. The computational requirements to coordinate such a vast effort are beyond even our capabilities. Perhaps that's why it wasn't designed to be computed, Sarah Chen suggested from her position beside Elena. The quantum network isn't a machine to be programmed. It's a living system that needs to grow naturally. That's why the human approach worked on Helios Prime. The revelation sparked an unprecedented reaction across known space. Species that had initially dismissed humanity as primitive began requesting human advisory teams. The Aurorans, despite their usual isolation, opened diplomatic channels specifically to consult with human xenobiologists. Even the Zixteri, renowned for their technological superiority, found themselves studying human intuitive problem-solving methods. Captain Rodriguez, now coordinating a fleet of human medical ships, could barely keep up with the requests for assistance. We're seeing the same pattern everywhere, he reported during a strategic briefing. Each species' transformation is unique, but they all connect to the same quantum network. It's like pieces of a puzzle finally coming together. Dr. Tanaka had been analyzing data from multiple transformation sites when she noticed something remarkable. The quantum signatures aren't just similar, they're complementary, she explained, pulling up a complex three-dimensional model. Each transformed species fills a different role in the network, like organs in a body or specialists in an ecosystem. The implications were staggering. The approaching threat, whatever it was, had been anticipated by multiple ancient civilizations. Rather than each developing their own defense, they had coordinated across vast distances and time periods to create a unified response. A response that, ironically, required the help of a young, emotionally driven species to implement. The ancient ones knew that pure logic and advanced technology wouldn't be enough. The transformed Heliocean eldest explained, its crystalline form resonating with newfound understanding. They needed a species that could embrace change, that could act on intuition when logic failed, that could inspire others to overcome their fears. They needed humanity. The human approach to managing the transformations proved infectious. Other species began adopting their methods, learning to combine advanced technology with intuitive understanding. The Mechanians, despite their purely logical nature, started incorporating human-inspired randomness into their calculations. The Aurorans found that embracing emotion actually improved their energy form transitions. Elena watched with pride as human medical teams worked alongside the galaxy's most advanced species, teaching them the value of improvisation and emotional intelligence. "We're not just helping them transform physically," she told the Council. "We're helping transform how the galaxy thinks." But the process wasn't without its challenges. As more systems underwent transformation, the strain on the quantum network increased. The transformed Helioceans could sense the approaching threat more clearly now, a vast, consciousness-devouring force that moved through higher dimensions, consuming civilizations that existed only in normal spacetime. Sarah and her team worked tirelessly to understand the ancient preparations. Each transformed species gains different abilities, she explained during a critical strategy session. The Helioceans can perceive quantum fluctuations. The Aurorans can manipulate energy states. The Mechanians can process vast amounts of quantum data. But they all need human guidance to coordinate effectively. The reason became clear as they studied the ancient records more deeply. The threat they faced didn't just attack matter and energy. It attacked consciousness itself, breaking down the barriers between individuals until all identity was lost. Humanity's strong sense of individual will, once seen as a primitive trait, proved to be a crucial defense against this type of assault. "Your emotions, your determination, your very unpredictability strengthen the quantum network," the eldest told Elena. "Where we provide the power, you provide the purpose. Where we offer ability, you offer direction." This understanding led to a fundamental shift in how the transformation process was managed. Instead of trying to control every aspect technically, the advanced species began focusing on maintaining stability while letting human intuition guide the overall direction. It was a partnership that would have seemed impossible months earlier. As the quantum network expanded and more species completed their transformations, a new form of galactic society began to emerge. The rigid hierarchies based on technological advancement gave way to a more balanced system that valued different types of contribution. Humanity's role shifted from primitive newcomers to essential partners in the galaxy's evolution. "We're not just preparing for a threat anymore," Elena realized as she watched human teams working seamlessly with transformed species across multiple systems. "We're building something new. A civilization that combines the best of all its members, logic and emotion, technology and intuition, ancient wisdom and fresh perspective." The transformed species agreed. Through their various enhanced perceptions, they could see how humanity's presence strengthened the quantum network in ways pure technology never could. The approaching threat was still coming, but now they faced it not as separate species, but as a unified force, each contributing their unique strengths to the whole. And at the heart of this transformation was humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy: the courage to face the unknown with hope, determination, and the unshakable belief that together they could achieve the impossible. New understanding. The first sign that the threat had arrived came not through any advanced detection system, but through human intuition. Sarah Chen was reviewing quantum network data when she felt an inexplicable sense of wrongness, a disturbance that registered not on her instruments, but in her gut. "Something's coming," she announced, just as the transformed Heliosians began detecting massive distortions in higher dimensional space. The quantum network, now spanning thousands of star systems, rippled with activity as transformed species sensed the approaching entity. Through their enhanced perceptions, they could finally see it clearly: a vast, shifting mass of consciousness-consuming void, moving through dimensions beyond normal spacetime. It had devoured countless civilizations in other galaxies, breaking down the barriers between individual minds until all that remained was a homogeneous mass of absorbed consciousness. This is what the ancients prepared us for. The Heliosian eldest's voice resonated through the quantum network. Not just the physical threat, but the loss of individuality, the destruction of what makes each species unique. Elena Santos stood in the Galactic Council chamber, now transformed into a strategic command center. The holographic displays showed the quantum network's response as thousands of transformed species took their positions. Each played their specific role: the Heliosians as quantum sensors, the Aurorans as energy manipulators, the Mechanians as data processors, all coordinated through human guidance. "We don't just fight for survival," Elena addressed the assembled representatives, her voice carrying through translation fields to every connected system. "We fight for the right to remain ourselves, to maintain our differences while working together. This is what humanity has always understood. Unity doesn't require uniformity." The entity struck with impossible force, attempting to breach the dimensional barriers that protected normal spacetime. But where it expected to find isolated, vulnerable civilizations, it encountered something unprecedented: a living quantum defense network that combined the strengths of thousands of species. Captain Rodriguez coordinated the human medical fleet, now spread throughout the galaxy. Their ships, originally designed for healing, had become crucial nodes in the defense network. "Every species brings something unique to this fight," he transmitted to his crews. "Our job is to help them work together, to keep the network stable through human determination and adaptability." The battle raged across multiple dimensions, beyond anything humanity could fully comprehend. But their role wasn't to understand everything. It was to provide the emotional strength and individual will that kept the network from fragmenting under the entity's assault. Dr. Tanaka monitored the quantum fluctuations as transformed species engaged the threat. "It's not just attacking our reality," she reported. "It's trying to rewrite the rules of existence itself. But our very unpredictability makes those rules harder to change." Through the quantum network, they could sense the entity's confusion. It had encountered countless civilizations, all following predictable patterns of technological advancement and logical defense. But this galaxy's response defied prediction, a combination of ancient preparation and human improvisation that it couldn't counter. This is why the ancients encoded their warning the way they did, Sarah realized as she watched the battle unfold. They knew that defeating this threat would require more than just advanced technology. It would need something that couldn't be calculated or predicted: human spirit. The transformed species fought with abilities that transcended conventional physics, their actions guided by human intuition and determination. Where the entity expected surrender to its overwhelming force, it found resistance. Where it sought to break down individual will, it encountered humanity's unshakable sense of self, strengthening the entire network. In a decisive moment, Elena coordinated a galaxy-wide effort that combined the quantum abilities of transformed species with humanity's unique capacity for creative problem-solving. Instead of trying to destroy the entity, they began using its own momentum against it, redirecting its consciousness-consuming power back upon itself. Every species it absorbed became part of its strength, Elena explained as she directed the defense. But that strength became a weakness when faced with something it couldn't absorb: our diversity, our individuality, our very human chaos. The entity, unable to adapt to this unprecedented response, began to collapse in on itself. The quantum network, guided by human determination and powered by transformed species abilities, contained and redirected its energy until it imploded, falling into a dimensional space from which it couldn't return. In the aftermath, as the galaxy began to process what had happened, a new understanding emerged. The transformed species, now permanently connected through the quantum network, had become something greater than their original forms. But they hadn't lost their individuality. Instead, their differences had become crucial strengths in a greater whole. The ancients didn't just give us a defense against the threat. The eldest addressed the council. They gave us a new way forward, a path that combines the best of all species, guided by humanity's unique spirit. Elena looked out at the transformed galaxy, where crystalline cities pulsed with new energy, where once rigid species had learned to embrace change, where humanity's emotional nature had proven to be not a weakness but a crucial strength. We came into the galactic community thinking we had so much to learn, she reflected. And we did. But we also had something essential to teach, that true strength comes not from erasing differences, but from embracing them. That emotion and intuition are just as valuable as logic and technology. That being human, with all our chaos and complexity, is not a flaw to overcome but a gift to be shared. The quantum network, now a permanent part of galactic civilization, stood as a testament to this truth. It combined the advanced abilities of transformed species with humanity's spirit, creating something that was both ancient and new, both logical and emotional, both individual and united. And in the vast darkness between the stars, where the threat had once lurked, there was now something else. Hope. Not just for survival, but for a future where every species, no matter how different, could contribute to the greater whole while remaining uniquely themselves. It was a future that only humanity could have helped create, by being exactly who they were, emotional chaos and all.